Hello. Today's build is a Prismatic Titan that is actually capable of ability spam without popping Transcendence. So what this build is about is an insurmountable skull fort, which reads, kills with arc melee abilities trigger health regeneration and restore melee energy. What it doesn't say is that if you get a kill with an arc melee, it will fully refund that ability. So in this case, you'll be using Thunderclap because it's prismatic and that's all you can use, but it's a very powerful ability, very easy to get kills with, and it's going to completely refund every time you use it. This is the linchpin for what is going to allow you to spam abilities for this entire build. I tried using Heart of Inmost Light on a build like this and it just felt like I didn't have abilities very often. So having a way to immediately refund one is going to be amazing for this build. So the gameplay loop of this build is throw a shackle grenade to suspend enemies, use your arc melee to kill them, which is going to get fully refunded whenever you get a kill with it. Defeated enemies will then drop a diamond lance, which you can then use to debuff a wide area with freeze. Once you've done that, you can then attack with another melee and continue this loop. Your melee kills will generate orbs of power, which you're going to use to get back even more ability energy. If for any reason you lose your melee charge, this build will allow you to make your uncharged melees count as charged, which will give you a way to generate orbs and therefore bring back your abilities as quickly as possible. Failing that, go Transcendent for an instant refund on both grenade and melee. For our subclass and super, as mentioned, this is a Prismatic Titan build. I've chosen to run Twilight Arsenal because it's seemingly the most high damage output in the shortest amount of time currently with Prismatic, and it's going to tie in perfectly with everything else that we're running. In addition, this is going to be how we generate Overshield, more on that later. For our abilities, I've chosen to run Thruster for the shortest cooldown. I also find it useful to engage or disengage from combat quickly. In general, just a really good ability. I'm really glad they included this. For your lift, this is completely up to you. For me, it's catapult lift for speed purposes, but I also like high lift when I'm doing things that involve a lot of jumping puzzles. So this is completely personal preference, choose what you like. You've got to use Thunderclap because that's the only thing that's going to work with our exotic and insurmountable skull fort. For your grenade, I recommend either Shackle Grenade or Glacier Grenade. Now Glacier has the shorter cooldown, but I just really like Shackle Grenade. And essentially the reason for this is because with our combination of fragments, you're going to be dealing extra damage with your Thunderclap to any enemies that are debuffed by darkness. So that's why I run Shackle or Glacier in this slot. For the aspects, I'm running Diamond Lance, as that gives me more ways to apply darkness debuffs on enemies. Plus, I find it really fun to use. These are created on kills with abilities or stasis weapons. Now, personally, I'm not using any stasis weapons, but these will allow us to chain the debuffs and continue to raise our damage output on successive kills. For the second aspect, I'm running Knockout. So this is for two main reasons. Because when you get kills with melees, which is the main point of this build, it's going to give you Amplified and it's going to restore a portion of your health. Now, in conjunction with Insurmountable Skull Fort, which also starts health regeneration, it means you can forego the use of the fragment that gives you health regeneration and use fragments elsewhere. So I really like this, and it's also going to buff the damage of your Thunderclap when it's active. The last reason I use this is because, and I'm going to get into the mod setup a bit later, but you'll be generating a lot of orbs, and Knockout will make your uncharged melees count as charged melees while it's active. So using this is going to just generate a whole bunch of orbs, allowing you to regenerate your Thunderclap if for any reason you lose it. Moving on to the fragments, I'm running Facet of Sacrifice. So while you have an Arc, Solar or Void buff, ability Final Blows grant bonus Transcendence energy. Now, I'm not sure the exact amount on this, but since the majority of this build is around using the Arc melee ability, anything that's going to boost your Darkness Transcendence energy is going to be really helpful. So in this case, you'll be getting Amplified, Radiant and Overshield constantly with this build. So this is going to have essentially 100% uptime, plus additional discipline is great for any build. Next, I'm going with Facet of Awakening. So rapidly defeating targets with light, darkness, or super damage creates elemental pickups, and this also gives you resilience. Now this is great because with the setup we have currently, assuming that you keep Shackle Grenade, you can create every single type of elemental pickup except for fire sprites, and in my opinion that's fantastic. Now the most common one you're going to be generating is Ionic Traces, because one, they don't have a cooldown, and two, you're going to be constantly refunding your Thunderclap with Insurmountable Skullfort, so you'll be getting loads of arc kills, and so that allows you to generate a lot of additional ability energy, Ionic Traces being the only ones that give ability energy across all of your abilities, and assuming that they're not directly in front of you, your melee is going to recharge before it drops into the melee as well, so you'll be getting more ability energy between your class ability and your grenade. Obviously Tangles, they're great, so using those is going to be fun, especially in conjunction with the artifact mods, as I'll mention later. Stasis Shards, another way to generate melee energy, and Void Breaches generate class ability energy. So all in all, loads of ability energy is going to be generated just by having this fragment, and the additional resilience just means you can spend your points on your armor mods on something else. Next is going to be Faceted Protection, pretty self-explanatory. While surrounded, you're more resistant to incoming damage, and while transcendent, that's even stronger, and you get extra strength. Now you're going to be in enemies' faces constantly, so this is going to be essentially up all the time. Another wonderful fragment, definitely needed. Next one is Facet of Courage. This is the start of the build, so not only does it give you more discipline as well, but this is what's going to allow you to get more damage out of your Thunderclap and your knockout melees and your super whenever you deal damage to a darkness debuff target. So slow, freeze, and suspend and unravel are going to do all of that. Oh, and sever as well, forgot about sever. Essentially anything that you hit with your Diamond Lance or your Shackle Grenade will buff your damage of your light abilities. So this is just a wonderful, wonderful ability, and this is going to get you the absolute maximum possible damage output. Lastly, Facet of Purpose. This is to get Overshield, and that's it. Very useful. What a lot of people don't seem to realise about Overshield is it also gives you damage reduction while it's active, as well as the additional health. So very powerful all in all, and that's why I recommend it over Woven Mail, because Woven Mail is a 45% damage reduction, Overshield is a 50% damage reduction, and you get the additional health from the Overshield. So really there's no reason not to do this. For the stat distribution, I've gone with 100 Resilience for obvious reasons. That is our class ability stat, and that's going to give us thruster back as quickly as possible. Now it's really a choice between 100 Discipline and 100 Strength, because you'll be getting your melees refunded. You don't really need 100 Strength. I've just gone with it because if I mess up, I want it back as quickly as possible. But all of my mods are pretty much Strength, so I can quite easily swap this out for the equivalent of 100 Discipline, but it's really up to you. So moving on to the armor mods. So forgive me for not having a Masterworked Insurmountable Skullfort, and then for not being able to fill up the mods as I wanted. But in the empty slot here, I would be running Harmonic Siphon if I'm running a Void weapon, but I'm not running a Void weapon. So this will be used for Powerful Friends, which is going to give all of your team armor charges whenever you pick up an orb, which is going to be constantly, as you'll see in a moment. The other two I'd run are hands-on mods, which are going to boost your super energy generation on melee kills, which will be constantly. You can swap one of these out for the equivalent for class ability, but I'm just going to stick with the melee ones. For the arms, I highly recommend triple heavy-handed, as this will give you the ability to get an orb per second, and you're just going to need that. Every second you'll be getting a refresh and more overshield. With the artifact mods that you'll see in a second, you'll be getting radiant and damage reduction. I'll explain that in a moment. Chest, resist mods, as per usual. whatever you think is necessary for the current activity, swap them out. But otherwise, I just like to run the 3 light ability ones, one of them being harmonic, just for as much extra energy for resilience mods or anything like that up here. Because I'm not running anything like damage boosters on the legs, I'm running only things that will give you back ability energy. So ability energy for the melee, for the grenade, and this is for every energy, every ability type. Whenever you pick up an orb, this is just going to allow you to regen your abilities if you lose them, and while you're running around killing everything with Thunderclap, you'll be getting your grenade and class ability back quickly, so I find that great. So in order not to use a grenade kickstart up here and have triple heavy-handed, I've decided to go with explosive finisher to restore grenades that way and consume armor charge in some capacity, so I'm not wasting that. And to get the most ability regen possible, I've gone with distribution for reduce all ability cooldowns when using your class ability near targets, and also bomber for the same whenever you use your class ability, get grenade back. For the artifact mods, champion mods, you can do whatever you want. I'm running pulse, sidearm and hand cannon because those are the weapons I use the most currently, but that's completely up to you. Moving on to the second row, I'm running a lot of dealer's choice weapons, so I've gone with overcharged armory to make them overcharged, and winning hand, because this will cause kills with dealer's choice weapons to explode into solar damage, which, because I'm running 2 strand dealer's choice weapons, that will be getting me both darkness and light transcendence energy. And if you run these with exotics like Kvostov, Steel Hunt, any of the other ones that you earned on the Pale Heart, those also count as dealer's choice weapons. Ace of Spades as well. So, you know, a mix and match to your liking, basically. For the third column, I'm running Elemental Siphon. So if you're running a Void weapon or obviously a kinetic weapon, then this is going to give you Void Breaches. It's not really that big a deal, but it's just nice. I'm not really running any Void weapons, so it's not really got any use, but none of the others have really a lot of use, except for Press the Advantage for me personally. But this one is an easy swap out if you want, and if you're not running Void weapons. This one, because I quite a lot of tangles when using the Shackle Grenade, I'm running this because it's essentially Warmind cells explosions. You can clear a massive area with a lot of damage by shooting them with a strand weapon, and I'm running 2 of those, so I highly recommend this. In the fourth column, I highly recommend Void, Hegemony, Radiant Orbs, and Galvanic Armor, because all 3 of these are going to work with your Prismatic subclass. And while the only thing that you can do in this build to weaken is use your super, I still think this is worth using, because anything you kill with the super is going to give you Void Overshield, and that is going to help your survivability while you continue to cast the rest of the axes. So I just think that is a very powerful ability. Plus, one of the most used, actually, both Warlock and Hunter have weakening effects in some of their most used builds, like the Felwinter's Helm Warlock build, or anything that uses Stylish Executioner and Combination Blow is going to weaken targets. So there's potential for a lot of weakened targets from your allies when you're playing with them, so that's just a very useful ability. Obviously, if you're using, if you're fighting champions, this is also very useful, but it's up to you. But these 2, I think, are absolutely 100% needed for this build. Now, Radiant Orbs is going to give you Radiant every time you pick up an orb, which is literally going to be every second, so definitely worth it. And then while you have Amplified, which is going to be literally every time you get a kill with the Thunderclap, you're going to get extra damage reduction. So with this, you're getting damage reduction from Overshield, damage reduction from your Armour Mods, damage reduction from this, totaling a lot of damage reduction. So very powerful. And then lastly, these 3, you can run really any combination of them. I'm running Expanding Abyss and Shield Crush, which is Void sources deal increased damage to weakened targets. This is just going to mean your super is going to deal more damage because it weakens targets itself. So this is just to get the maximum damage out of your super, and obviously this is the most powerful super from damage testing videos I've seen on this Prismatic class. So definitely worthwhile using. Shield Crush, this one's an absolute must-have. While you have Overshield, your melee recharges faster and deals increased damage, so constantly you're going to have Overshield. Even if you run out of Thunderclap, you can use Knockout to get back, or get Orbs of Power and keep the Overshield running, so that's just going to help you constantly have it. And then while you have Amplified or Radiant, which is going to be all the time for both, your grenade recharges faster and also deals increased damage. So absolutely amazing, because your melee is going to be the thing that is refunding. So this is just a great way to get extra grenades out and deal more damage with them. Wonderful. And then Transference. I'm not using this currently, but gain increased grenade and melee damage while Transcendent, and weapon final blows while Transcendent refund light and dark energy after Transcendence ends. Great, but I'm not really using my weapon much while Transcendent in this build. Really just to pepper a boss while I'm waiting for the abilities to refund and let me throw more. So that's everything. Now I'm going to show you my drip because I think that's important. Drip check. I am running the super black shader on everything. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to put together a better colour scheme, but I really like the armour I'm using. I really like this pseudo Zavala style. So yeah, all in all, I think this looks pretty awesome. I like how the blue matches here, but it's just a guy in black. So not the most exciting drip check I've ever done. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Peace out, and I hope you enjoy the build.